Mr. Speaker, addressing the climate crisis is not just crucial for our environment, it is crucial for protecting the lives and livelihoods of Fijian people and protecting the stability and growth of our economy. To be able to respond effectively the scale of the challenge we face as a small island state, we need to face and access predictable and adequate climate financing. COP29 in Baku was dubbed as the Finance COP because all parties were mandated to agree to a new target for the amount of climate financing that parties would commit to deploy annually to support developing countries. This new target was required to replace the current target to deploy 100 billion USD per year as climate finance. The new target, referred to as the new Collective Quantified Goal, NCQG, has been under negotiation for over 2 years and was required to be agreed at COP29. And given the slow progress to date to reduce global emissions and support resilient building, developing countries urgently require financing to implement both their mitigation commitments and adaptation plans. At COP29, Mr. Speaker, our negotiation teams worked diligently to secure the best possible outcome across the negotiation streams. In many cases, both ministers and negotiators started the day early in the morning, 6 a.m. sometimes, and often finishing early hours of the next morning, sometimes as far as 3 or 4 a.m. We faced many challenges given the state of current geopolitics, and in the final days of COP29, SIDS and least developed countries were left with no choice but to actually walk out of the negotiation room as our priorities had not been properly accounted for within the financial decision text that was before us. Although the situation was politically and technically challenging, this action served to increase the ambition and ensured that there was no risk that parties would adopt decisions that represented a step backwards. Fiji, Barbados, and Samoa, as well as high-level representatives from least developed countries, and the European Union, the US, and others, including Australia, constituted a small group of 15 individuals that in a closed room setting negotiated to salvage the COP29 finance deal. Together, SIDS and LDCs represented the majority of developing countries, and we used our weight as small island developing states, IOCs, as a joint bloc to push for progress and ambition. While the final outcome somewhat falls short of our expectations, Mr. Speaker, it represents a significant improvement from the original vision we faced, and in fact, it does not cross our red lines. The final COP29 decision on the new quantified collective goals call for climate financing from all public and private sources to reach USD 1.3 trillion per year by 2035. And within that goal, Mr. Speaker, is the commitment to ensure developing countries take the lead on providing 300 billion USD per year by 2035. While this goal represents a tripling of the financing floor, developed countries are currently committed to, and it sits within the broader $1.3 trillion goal. I know the deal has been criticized for seeking to achieve the 300 billion through a wide variety of sources, and for the decision to include contributions from developing countries to multilateral development banks within the scope of the sources contributing to this target. So in fact, as the Honourable Leader of the Opposition would know, the discussion on the contributor base took a lot of time, particularly in the first week, Mr. Speaker. While this is a pronounced challenge for some of the larger and wealthier high-emitting developing countries, it is less of an issue in our context and circumstances, and we can take some comfort with the understanding that an increase has been committed to alongside elements of the decision which recognize the need to address many of the excess issues we face. The decision includes commitment to support nationally led approaches and simplify access to international climate funds. While the decision falls short of the direct commitment to scale up financing for loss and damage, it does recognize loss and damage issues and includes specific mention of the need to develop new and specific solutions for SIDS and LDCs. In fact, Mr. Speaker, said the IOC's position, which includes us, the Pacific Small Island Developing States, we initially went into the negotiating room with a $39 billion finance floor. That obviously was not acceptable, but we see the $300 billion as a floor, and we feel that a large chunk of that should be available for small island developing states. The other significant event, Mr. Speaker, is the operationalization of the Loss and Damage Fund. In fact, the World Bank is going to be the financial intermediary, and we hope that all the mechanisms, the processes, the board for the fund for responding to loss and damage has also been appointed, and we are hoping that by at least 2026, small island developing states would be able to access some of those funding. Mr. Speaker, this new finance goal will replace the previous $100 billion per year target, and despite some of the gaps in the cohesiveness of the decision, government will work to ensure that the new targets and commitments are seen through in our engagement with development partners and international climate funds. We have no choice but to hold parties to account and to ensure this deal will translate into the new and additional financing we need urgently to increase and scale up our response to climate change here in Fiji.